Hello, beautiful strangers, and welcome back to another episode of Myth. When last we left off, we get a nice, fun little glimpse into the past of one Meito Tanabe. And, well, we learned a little bit about him. He's from Tokyo. Hard to say when exactly. We weren't given a year, I don't believe. There was nothing there that gave a specific year, but at least fairly modern for the time period. I believe they mentioned cell phones, they mentioned laptops, but the way that they talked about computers and whatnot seemed a bit older, not exactly modern. And this came out in 2008. It seemed to be a little bit older than that, in my opinion. But I could be wrong. I don't have a ton of memories of the tech levels of stuff in 2008. So, you know, I do have some, to be fair, but not a ton. Not a ton. But anyway, let's get back into it, shall we? Let go. What did you see? That was my world. 2002, Tokyo. Yeah, there we go. We got a year now. 2002. That made no sense. Provided my memory is correct, then that means that the gate was an entrance that led me here. Which meant that what it led to was obvious. There was no way my world lay beyond that. Otherwise, why did you show me that? Don't know. You don't know? I just followed the plot. Huh? Fucking Odin. I don't like her. What do you mean? The plot was mixed with our will. Then that means that was something Odin wrote. As far as I know, the gate can't see into other worlds. Odin did that. Why? It's not for me to know. Anyway, tell me, what did you see out there in that Tokyo? I like that spelling. I saw my world, and it was, I can't remember. I just know that I saw something and it made me sad. I had to unravel something, otherwise, Ragnarok would occur. What? Yeah, Mama said Ragnarok. So your odd existence, too, is linked with the meaning behind myth. Those blank pages for those 2 days might have been your panicking. Lily-san turned around. Where are you going? We're going back. There's no point in us hanging around here. The scene would change if we just stayed here eventually, but Lily-san still insisted on leaving the cave herself. It was almost like that action in itself was a declaration of war against Odin. Myth, Day 18, Acceptance. I thought that scene was a little bit longer than it was, but whatever. Okay. Food ready? Oh, so we're having bacon and eggs today? Having decided there would be no denying them, I was simply ignoring all the things I didn't like about this world. Our relationship had changed to one of lovers now. We've been having a lot of Western dishes lately. Do you not like them? You like that? No, that's not it. I guess bacon and eggs is more of an American, not really. I guess it is a sort of a Western thing, but it's odd that, I don't know. I know in some countries you tend to eat or cultures, I guess, not necessarily countries. You typically will eat lighter for breakfast. In America, from what I've seen from people that I know, that it was always like eat either a light lunch and fairly heavy, or eat a light breakfast and a fairly heavy lunch, or a heavy breakfast and a light lunch, or some cases like me, I eat a decently heavy breakfast, I don't eat lunch, and then I eat dinner. But you know, it varies from person to person, I guess. But I drop my fucking phone. I do that all the time. God damn it. Yeah, I don't know. I've not done a ton of research into food culture in a long while. I used to, but I don't so much anymore. But I do find food culture to be very, very interesting because it gives a very good look into how a culture acts and thinks of certain things and so on and so forth. Anyway, I put the greasy bacon in my mouth after I told her so. How is it? It's good. A broad smile formed on her face. Seeing her like that made me feel a number of different things, though. Meito-san, because she showed me the reality of the situation. There are only 3 days left, and she smiled like that. Right. I want to learn more about you before then. We can only act of our own will for a short time in the script, after all. Is that okay? Sure. So like I said, I want to know more about you. She bombarded me with questions about myself. My age, my personality, my interests, what I liked and disliked, what I felt in that world without shadows, and about my masturbation habits and whether I was still a virgin. And I answered everything truthfully. I didn't feel any shame. It wasn't like that information was data concerning me anymore. I see. Then I reflected on myself as I introduced myself to her. So much of that was proof of my very being, but it meant nothing. It was all for show. I should stop thinking so hard. The truth, however, was that I wanted to escape from this harsh reality. Notebook? Yuri-san was curious about what I just told her. I was talking about what life was like since I first came to this world of shadows. So ever since Shimon died, you've been keeping a record of things in that notebook? Right. I felt like I shouldn't forget about them. Interesting. Check notebook. Oh, I don't think I read this. Says a girl I found in the grasslands of the world of shadows. She's selfish, crass, and a complete moron. But when she found out about the dirty book I had, she just laughed about it. She's good at heart, I think. I'm curious about something. Oh, these are new, I think. Berserker eats Loki. Dinner male, the betrayer. Shadows and... Oh, right. Actually, we have read that, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty confident we have. Yeah, nothing. Okay. Capital Tokyo. Koichi Tanabe. Let's go through this. This should be interesting. Koichi Tanabe, Meito's father, male, 53, Tokyo, birthplace Tokyo, blood type AB, born 9/22/1944. Meito Tanabe's father. He marries Kyoko in 1982 and soon after conceives Meito. He lives for his job. Koichi is the kind of person who will talk about his work even when he's not working. His wife, Kyoko, acts as his assistant. Female, 44. Birthplace Aichi, blood type A, 4/9/1958. Meito Tanabe's mother. She marries Koichi in 1982 and gets pregnant soon after. Her maiden name is Ishida. She works at the same place as Koichi. She doesn't interact with her family much. Her relationship with Meito is not particularly great, but she believes that's inevitable. She calls Koichi a being of light and refers to herself as being of shadow. She always worried about Meito losing his shadows and deems him the child of light and shadow. It's possible she is mentally ill. Meito here. Average high school student, Meito Tanabe, male, 18, Tokyo, blood type A, date of birth 5/11/1984. I doubt that's actually a reference to something, but I'm curious if it actually is. Oh. A student attending, he still looks dumb by the way, a student attending a municipal high school. He's a sociable and calm person. He has a somewhat timid side to him beneath his kind exterior. I don't know, it's something about his eyes, his posture, like the hunched over posture I kind of get. There's something about his eyes that bothers me though, and I'm not quite sure what exactly it is. Anyway, he never skips out on his part-time job when that he works 4 times a week even though it's exam season. The reason for that is because of his parents. He's very agreeable and has many friends. He doesn't particularly have any hobbies or skills, so he doesn't fit in entirely with this group of friends. It's more a relationship that he has a large, though shallow, network of relationships. Among that group of friends, though, are two people he's particularly friendly with, Takanobu Shibayama and Masahiro Oshiro. Both of them are laid-back people and likely pleasant for Meito to be around. As a result, his girlfriend is Yuri Yamagami, and it's clear to anyone that she wears the pants in their relationship. Yuri Yamagami, and she has a picture. Female 18, Tokyo B 1124, 1984. Meito's lover. She attends a Christian municipal high school. Are there Christian schools, especially large-scale high schools in Tokyo? I don't know. It seems like she has a bright future ahead of her, as she's attending a university prep school and is known for her good grades. She's a bit selfish and makes enemies easily, but that's part of her charm as well. She met Meito through a friend and they ended up dating. Yuri's charms and Meito's leniency are what keeps their relationship smoothly sailing. Meito's best friend, Masahiro Oshiro. Gender male, age 18, birthplace Tokyo, blood type A, 22, 1985. A male student attending a municipal high school, he's Meito's classmate and best friend. He's frank and unreserved about his convictions, but somewhat timid otherwise. He's obsessed with computers and will talk about them endlessly whenever given the chance. Recently, his network was upgraded from dial-up to ADSL, further fueling his internet addiction. He's been into some holds-up spork things lately, but Meito has no idea what that's all about. Fucking Penguin of Doom, god damn it. Meito's... They're both his best friend. Takanobu Shibayama. Gender male, age 18, birthplace Tokyo, blood type A, date of birth 8/28/1984. A male student attending a municipal high school, he's Meito's classmate and best friend. He's a model student and well-liked and trusted by his teachers. He isn't the kind of person to boast about that, though, as he's rather popular in class, especially during the end-of-year exam and midterm. He's a handsome boy with an optimistic mindset, but you would never guess he's a fan of retro things because of that. This is also probably the reason, along with the fact that he's quite calm and reserved, that he gets along with Meito and Masahide. His interests really match up with Meito's, so he collects goods, particularly Bikuriman goods, and enjoys watching old anime, particularly Tatsunoko's Man series of works, both of them view themselves as friends who share a rare common interest together. Interesting. And this? Technically, we don't know this yet, but whatever. We'll read it anyway. Her stepsister, she respects and admires her. She trusts her. Riri. Gender female, age 24, birthplace in Inshi refugee. Blood type unknown, date of birth 174 AGNI. The sovereign of Mitakami, capital of Aguni, the world of possibilities. One of the theurgists, those who have special powers. Her power is known as omniscience. Okay. She can resonate her own thoughts with another's thought patterns and in reality share their thoughts. In other words, she can read others' minds and also manipulate them to some extent. She was bullied as a child for her green hair. Her personality is quite twisted as a result. She's very aggressive and will immediately act if threatened. However, she's weak against her stepsisters. World granted God's powers. Interesting. Kiki. Healer of the people, what was your title? I'll know her. Okay. Healer of the people, Kiki. Gender female, age 23, presumed she doesn't know if that's her real age, birthplace unknown, blood type unknown, date of birth unknown. She secretly leaves her Inshi refugee home for Mitakami, and in just 4 years she attains a governing position in the cities using her powers. One of the theurgists who can use special powers. Her ability is prognostication, her ability to forecast the future. I thought that was pretty cool, whatever. Her ability lets her assign highly likely futures to individuals, but she doesn't like to use her powers for such primitive reasons. She will only use her powers to tend to others' wounds. She does this by manifesting internally available information pertaining to the future. She met Riri as a child when she was looking at the ocean. Ever since then, they lived together as stepsisters. Kiki reserves and adores her stepsister's bravery for overcoming her fears and protecting her from bullies. Interesting. Mumu, 210. Warrior of the people. Mumu. Gender male, age 210. Birthplace Mitakami, blood type unknown. Date of birth 790 CE. One of the core guardians tasked with protecting Mitakami even prior to the Aguni era. He has lived in this world for over 210 years. He is rumored to be one of the strongest theurgists given his long life, but he doesn't feel that to be true. His special power is victory. Victory. He can materialize the weapons he imagines in his mind and murders others with them. Somebody was a fan, whatever. I am the bone of myself. He doesn't kill people, though. He has a somewhat childish, selfish personality and is somewhat a character on Minakami's administrators. He claims to have seen the outline of Riry's and Kiki's figures prior to Aguni's death. But master, disciple, okay? And comrades. Min. Governor of the people. Gender, Min. Gender, male, age 26, birthplace Minakami, birth type unknown, date of birth 174 AGNI. The person in charge of internal affairs among Minakami's political administration, he is unsurpassed when it comes to negotiations. Min's power is communication. He's able to share thoughts with person he uses it on. The difference between his power and Riry's power is aggressive, whereas Min's power is constructive. It's actually probably means in it or whatever. Min can share thoughts and bend others' will, but he's unable to murder them. He ascends to the position of Stammer to Minakami following Riry's death and gains political control over the city. He's often rather taciturn and doesn't express his emotions much. You are Aguni, ordered to observe the world as a bystander, bestows with powers. The observer, Aguni. Gender unknown, age unknown, birthplace unknown, blood type unknown, date of birth unknown. Possesses such immense powers that it is said they continue to protect the world even following their death. Thought to be the person who created Kiki and granted Moonboy such a long life. Well, that's interesting. Character charts. The way she went, like that was unique to her and always implied there was more than she let on. Could you show it to me? She must have had something in mind. I handed her the notebook I was carrying in my pocket. This is it. The notebook had its own peculiarities to it. She scanned the pages in silence. What could that mean? Was that all just part of the plot? I waited for her to speak up. You should keep writing things down. Why? Look, everything's still there. Isn't that obvious, though? I mean, I did write it myself, after all. Oh. Continue keeping a record of what's going on. Don't spare any details. I figured out what she was getting at. She was talking about how significant the notebook might be. Is this notebook still around in the next loop? We've got some hope now. She let out a hearty chuckle unbefitting of her. Don't you think it's strange, Shadowless? What is? After we ate, Riri-san came to the veranda to talk. The difference between our acting and our real actions. I don't follow. Think about it. We're still on stage even now. But here we are, talking like this. Yeah. We couldn't do this at first. Is that true? I tried to exchange information with Shimon, but the scene changed immediately. You showed up. Huh. But after you awoke to yourself, it seems things have begun to change. Right. Does that make you happy? It should, since you're able to be yourself. No, it really doesn't. Well, I guess that makes sense for you. As I acted in a character in myth, I felt I was beginning to get a feel for the general rules behind Odin's instructions. For example, the scene changed just now. It wasn't that I had actually walked here myself. I just felt that I was here before I realized it. There was always a reason behind that movement. That was rule number 1. In this instance, Meito-san? I was speaking with Riri-san. I had no idea how many scenes we'd covered already, but this scene was likely depicting Meito sick of waiting for Riri to return after shopping and going to pick her up. You're pretty late. Yeah, I had to go out of my way today. I was able to get everything for free. For goods. Isn't that just plain theft? That was rule number 2. The thought I had just now wasn't my own. The lines Odin prepared for me to think had a direct effect on my mind. Those thoughts existed to obstruct my will and would appear in such a way that it seemed like they were actually born of it. It was incredibly frustrating. And it was something I was going to have to put up with for a long time. And the same was likely true of Riri-san as she forced to follow and plot and go shopping. things look forward to dinner tonight. It was almost like you said what was prepared in the script all by yourself, if you weren't careful. It was incredibly unpleasant to speak things that you didn't actually think. Looking forward to what? To secret? That must mean that it's going to be something special. Who knows? Is it whale? That's a little dated. You fell for my leading question. Looks like that's for dinner. You're too easy, Didi. I slipped up. Pointless conversations, pointless fiction before us. I had to follow all of that, though, as a character in the story. Didi-san and I held hands as we went back home. This ugly yet beautiful world. Someone celebrated this world as such. Whether that was actually true was something I didn't know. I had too much on my plate just maintaining myself. How could I afford to actually ponder about this world? It made me want to question how anyone could do that, because someone did, indeed, celebrate this world as such. There was no doubt about it. The feelings I embraced at that moment were likely the result of the wind blowing across the grasslands. The stage was beautiful. No one could say otherwise. Its beauty was almost creepy. It wasn't ugly or hideous. It had no faults at all. If you were to say that something in this wonderful world was ugly, then perhaps that would be me. If I didn't have a will of my own, I would have been able to die as a piece of this beautiful world. If I didn't know it was just going to loop, then I could have continued to die over and over again. That's what I thought, at least. Everything before me was not what it seemed, but it was so beautiful, so vividly distinct, and so vast that it was like my very existence could disappear within it. Why am I... It made me uneasy. It made me fear myself. The word birth would be more appropriate, applied to the character known as Meito Tanabe. That made more sense, but that wasn't right either. The moment my will emerged, I, too, was born. Thinking that made me afraid of myself. If my will didn't intervene, then I could have spent my days as a humble resident of this beautiful world. It was beautiful, just beautiful. This ugly yet beautiful world. Someone celebrated this world as such. If that was this world's natural way of being, according to that celebrant. What are you doing here, Meito-san? And I had no choice but to continue to exist. Oh, is it already time for dinner? Already? It's sunset. My own ugliness taught me of this world's beauty. You're right. And I could do naught but accept that. The setting sun is so pretty. Yeah. With how dark it is currently, I think the sun's already set, but whatever. Maybe not. The world was beautiful today, too. Dinner's ready? Didi carried dinner to the table with a smile on her face. Cool. Wait, what the heck is that? She placed dishes holding oddly colored food. It should be very familiar to you. Wait, isn't this food from my world? Like I said, it should be very familiar to you. I'm happy, but I wonder what everyone in that world is doing right now. I was curious about that, but that world doesn't concern me anymore. It was just another creation. It was no different from this world. And the people who lived in Meito Tanabe's world didn't worry about others. And even that setting was powerless before us. It doesn't really move me. My fake past was being recalled in front of me. Food known as ready-to-eat meals. That's what I was used to in my world. Good, as long as you ate it on a tray, it's all good. That's what was eaten in Meito Tanabe's world, but they weren't your standard ready-to-eat meals. It was either sloppy liquid or solid food. It had flavor to it, despite being so thoroughly designed to be without anything that was useless. It was exactly what you'd expect to find in that world. Did it still make you feel nostalgic, though? She smiled. And well, yeah. Thought of my Meito Tanabe's world against my will. A world without true structure. My character was still compelled to think, though, about what everyone was doing. What a cynical line. Thanks for the meal. I ate the food so closely resembling that of Meito Tanabe's world. It tasted good. That was all, though. It was missing something. It was optimal and perfect. Everything about it was perfect. The meal contained white fish. It tasted fine. There was nothing wrong with it. It was perfect. However, it was lacking. Because it was so perfect, and the fact that it was white fish made that all the more obvious. I only knew this because of the time I spent in this world of shadows. It doesn't taste burned at all. There was perfection in imperfection. This kind of meal lacked that, though. The charred taste of the fish, its shape. You see, I like your cooking more. I much preferred those imperfections to these ready-to-eat meals. Thank you. The notebook was before me. I took out my pencil from my bag and gazed at the notebook. It was time for me to write down what happened. I had to write down everything that happened today as accurately and as in much detail as possible. I wrote down subjective thoughts concerning what would happen in the future and all the questions I had in mind. In addition, I wrote down general impressions I had. I wrote and continued to write. The blank page was soon filled with words. Had I ever written so much before? I, Meito Tanabe, probably did back in that other world. Those words formed what would be a link to the future, and this notebook would serve to deliver that link. How ironic. It was practically meaningless. Meito Tanabe never learned anything in that class that would aid him in a situation like this. Nor did I learn anything about this world of shadows. All that was taught in school was common knowledge. Common sense, common knowledge, common ethics, and none of that was any use to me right now. Because it was all merely fabricated in this giant, fictitious world. Thinking about it made me want to correct myself, though. And it wasn't entirely without use to me, because I was able to remember that they were the remnants of the character named Meito Tanabe's life. And that wasn't without worth. The remnants of what once formed Meito Tanabe. That's why I was able to look at those remnants without reserve. As the real Meito Tanabe. Thank you. I had to give my thanks to the teachers for teaching Meito Tanabe those things. I also had to thank Meito Tanabe's classmates for allowing him to live on. Meito Tanabe's parents deserved thanks too for raising me, to be the contrarian that I was. That world itself was worthy of thanks for making me realize that I was imperfect. Meito-san? The two of us gazed at the scenery on the veranda. We held hands, like lovers would do. They were a bit sweaty. I could feel the wet sweat, but I didn't know which of us it belonged to. What do you think? About the end. The approaching inevitability, our definitive final days. That came about a week ago for Shimon-san, and 6 days ago for Kiki-san. Just 3 more days. It had already been decided. Yeah, 3 days. Just 3 days. 3 days remained in our lives. It's all over for us after that. I'd like to learn more about Hibiki's disappearance before then. Yeah. It really made me wonder, though, why didn't Odin depict us interacting with the shadows? We had to follow the village rules since we were here. Odin's objective is for those of us with bodies to coexist with the shadows. Doesn't that mean that you'd have to write about us interacting with them in that case? I couldn't understand what Odin's true intentions were. Mito-san? Dewey Blunt, you're an abnormality. Yeah. That's why I'm betting on you. Can I borrow your shoulder? Why? The plot demands it. She leaned against my shoulder before I had a chance to reply. Mito-san? Yeah? Do you know what death is? I know what the word means, at least. I see. She giggled. It was almost like she was saying I was wrong. Are you afraid of dying? Well, yeah. I am too. She gripped my shirt. Her small shoulders began to faintly tremble. It brought to mind a small, fragile rag doll. Even if you can faintly remember your death, explaining that pain and suffering is nearly an impossibility. Are you just following the script now? Who knows? Her answer was vague. Her voice trembled, though. Was she just putting on an act? Was this just some foreshadowing when we talked of death? Or was she actually terrified? Riri-san was an incredibly capable actor. She'd cry and laugh on cue. So I really didn't know that was her own will. Is it really that scary to die? No, to experience it yourself. She was likely confused because the impression her character held strongly reflected her real ones. Death. Everyone was afraid of it, no matter how many times one had experienced it. A particular line came to mind. Sorry, let me say the line I was going to. It was an awful line. Would she be able to endure hearing it? Or would she go mad in this threshold between truth and acting? I hesitated. I wasn't sure what to do. Okay. Her tone was shaky. Right. I knew about her, the real her, at least a little bit. She was always strong. She could always continue to act without hesitating. That's why I knew it was fine if I said this. I'll always be here for you. I said it. That line was likely intended to make her cry. My character was the strong one, saying that to the weak Riri. Don't cry. I'll always be by your side, even in death. So, don't worry. The truth, though, was the opposite. I was the weak one. Odin likely didn't realize this, but my hands were always shaking. My shaking hands were different from the trembling of her shoulders, though. It was more real. Riri, Meito Tanabe embraced the character Riri's shoulders. However, the real person behind that character was Riri-san. Am I actually soothing you? Meito-san? Am I able to wipe away your tears? The real you, not those scripted tears wept by that determined yet weak play doll. The tone of her sobs was lower than usual. So I embraced her. I pulled her head toward my chest. I tried to express my own feelings at that moment, even if that was a scripted action. Riri-san, I'll do my best. I'll show you that I can be stronger. I vowed to do just that as I continued to embrace her while the incessant sound of the insects surrounded us. Ah, nice name for a chapter there, isn't it? And I think a nice point to end this episode. They have, at this point, 2 days left. 2 days and then death. And as they mentioned, the notebook. It contains information about the people that is supposed to no longer be in the collective consciousness anymore. So, Biki, Shimon, I don't think I have to point that out to you. That should be pretty obvious to you, and I'm just an idiot, Pop. I'm just an idiot for pointing it out, rather. Yeah. Next time, we start the penultimate day in Protagonist. Well, I hope to see you all there.